Welcome. Happy to have you here with me today. I'm Dr. Susan, and we're here to do play and learn. And the process that we're going to be doing today is all about seeds. And the story that we're going to share is about the seed that didn't want to be planted. That seems a little odd, but we're going to take a look at that story. And parts of the story, especially the front part of the story, looks a little on the scary side. But what it does, we'll talk about when we get back, and we can talk a little bit about what the seed went through and how that kind of relates to you and I when we have new experiences in our lives. Because some things can look scary, especially when we don't know what's going to happen or what's going to come up next. So this is a little story that kind of tells us a little bit about what that feels like and how it unfolds. And sometimes when we think something is very scary, we don't know how it's going to feel at the end. So we're going to see how that worked out for this little seed that did not want to be planted. All right? And so we're going to go ahead and start the story, and then we can talk about it when we're all finished. So let's do that. There's the seed who was afraid to be planted. It's by Anthony DiStefano, and it's illustrated by Aaron Madrid. So as you can see, just by the look on the plant, the little seed's face on the front of the book, doesn't look very happy. So let's see what happens to the little seed. There once was a seed who lived in a drawer in a room of a mansion by a beautiful shore. That drawer right there, that's where the seeds live. The drawer was filled with seeds of all kinds for bushes and trees and flowering vines. The seeds were quite happy and had lots to do. The drawer was quiet, pretty, and painted bright blue. See the drawer on the inside. There's scissors and a flashlight. Let's see, there's figs and olives and grapes and mustards and rose seeds for rose bushes and apples and lilies. There's all kinds of seeds. Cozy and warm, the seeds felt secure. The drawer was a playground. Of this he was sure. But all was not well. The seed was afraid that he'd be taken and planted one day. The mansion, you see, was owned by a man whose hobby was gardening and tending his land. The man sometimes took a seed from the drawer, and no one would see that seed any more. The seed was so scared that might come a day the man would reach down and take him away. The thought was just awful and hard to believe. He couldn't imagine that he'd have to leave. Then one dark day, the drawer opened wide, and the seed saw a hand reach down from the outside. He tried to escape. He begged and he cried, but there was no place to run or no place to hide. The hand clasped about him, and the seed shook with fear. He yelled to the man, "Don't take me from here." Outside in the garden, the seed looked around. He saw, to his horror, a hole in the ground. A hole in the ground? Oh no, it can't be. I want to go back to my drawer. Can't you see? I'm scared to be planted. I want to be free. I'm in so much pain and such agony. The seed was really, really distressed. The man was just silent. He made not a sound. He just smiled softly and put the seed down. The sky was deep purple, and the seed said a prayer, and the man stood above him and buried him there. He wanted to moan, and he started to moan, and he started to groan. He felt so abandoned, forsaken, and alone. Tired and frightened, he wept. He started to weep, but soon closed his eyes and fell fast asleep. Remember about his tears. All covered with dirt, he dreamed he would die. But then all at once, in the blink of an eye, something took place there in that hole to the seed's weary body and terrified soul. He started to change. He started to glow. The little seed stretched and started to grow. What could be happening? The little seed cried. What is this feeling I have deep inside? His body expanded. He swelled and he grew. He rose in the dirt till his head wiggled through. The growing was his leaves. Once through the soil, he saw a great light. The sun in the sky was dazzling bright. Slowly but surely, the seed was aware of rising and climbing up into the air. You see, the look on his face is a little different this time. At last, the seed realized. At last, he could see. He was really and truly becoming a tree. There he is. There's a lot more leaves now. Higher and higher the little tree went. Into the heavens he made his ascent. Suddenly branches sprang from his side. Hundreds and hundreds of leaves multiplied. The branches grew nuts and fruits that hung down. They swayed in the breeze and covered the ground. Then, filling the air with fragrant perfumes, the tree sprouted flowers and blossoms and blooms. Look at the look on his face. Quite surprising, huh? Then birds began building nests for their young, joyfully flapping their wings as they sung. In the tree's branches the baby birds napped, while woodpeckers pecked at his bark full of sap. Cardinals and blue jays flew from above. They played with the edges and the owls and the dove. They played with the eagles, not edges. They played with eagles and owls and doves. Squirrels and rabbits began to appear. Beautiful butterflies came flying near. See the bunnies and the squirrel, the owl. The tree was amazed. He looked at the scene. The sky was so blue, the garden so green. Mountains and vineyards and cities he saw. Millions of mansions looked over the shore. The tree was so thankful and heavy with fruit. He bowed to the man in humble salute. The man stood below, a smile on his face. His children were running all over the place. They climbed up the tree and they swung from his vines. They seemed to be having the happiest times. The garden was sunlit. The tree was aware of laughter and music and life everywhere. Life in the garden, life on the shore. So much more life than he had in the drawer. A breeze stirred his leaves and a wind howled through. The tree understood all things were new. The tree understood that he had been freed. He barely remembered when he was a seed. He barely remembered his life in the drawer. His fears disappeared and returned nevermore. The end. So if we take that story and think about how that story looks like to us, when you first start reading it, it was a little on the scary side for the poor little seed going, oh no, can't someone stop the gardener from taking the seeds? Yet the gardener knew something the seed didn't. Just like when we go on adventures with our family and with our friends. It may be an adventure we've never been on before, yet there's some little part in our tummy that says, oh, this is a little scary. I've never done this before. I don't know about you, but when you go to an amusement park, and there's that big old roller coaster like this that goes like that. I'm sorry, that's not in my book to do. It's a little on the scary side. And a good thing you and I have is we have choice as to whether we want to step into that journey or step into that little adventure of going on that roller coaster, or deciding, I think I'm going to go on something not quite as scary looking. But we still have those feelings that the little seed had. He didn't know what was happening. He didn't know what was going to happen to him. So, and being put in the dirt and the dark and everything else was very scary. And it was very upsetting to him. And he shed tears. Now the tears were what was watering and helping his roots begin and helping him starting to grow. So his inside of him knew exactly what it needed to do, even though he was unaware of it. So it started doing what it needed to do, just as our bodies know what it needs to do to help us grow and get tall and do those things. And if you think about yourself, and you think about the tree that was planted, when his leaves came up and he was able to see the sunlight, it's the same thing. As we get taller, we begin to see more that we didn't see when we were little and crawling around on the floor. As we got taller and we got to see more, it opened up our world to where we could be more adventurous and go see what was sitting on top of that chair and what was sitting on top of that table and all that stuff. And day by day by day, everything changed. It changes every single day. So all the things for the seed was very scary. So I want to take just a minute, and we're going to write down. I'm going to use the back of this little piece of paper to write down some of the words, if you can remember them, that we heard the seed say and feel. He was, number one, he was afraid, because he was afraid of what he didn't know. He was afraid. And then he felt abandoned, which means there was nobody there to help him. So he felt alone. And he was not real sure about being in the dirt, in the dark. So we'll put dark. And he didn't have his friends, right? No friends. Okay, and what else was he going through? He was afraid, and he was alone. There was just lots of scary things that he was feeling. And sometimes we feel like that when we're going to be going somewhere we've never been before. Maybe you're going to go out of town to visit relatives you don't know. You've heard your parents talk about them, but you don't know them. And that's a little scary too. When you go from kindergarten to first grade, I think you probably had those same feelings. You go to a classroom you don't know, and there's more kids, and you don't know those kids, and you don't know the teacher. Yet there's that something inside that tells you it's going to be okay. And the seed finally was upset, and he finally fell asleep. And when he woke up, or as you and I can think about it, instead of this being in the dirt, the seed thought about, oh my goodness, now what's going to happen? And I feel so strange. Something's different. What's different? And the big thing is change. And that's the things he was feeling. So and I'm going to write change here. And then we're going to add some more things to the list once we start the project that we're going to be working on. And we'll write them down on our jars. What we're going to do is we're going to take the idea of the seed, and we're going to actually plant some seeds, and then I'm going to take them home and kind of nurture them and take care of them until they start to sprout, and then I'll bring them back so you can see that, probably in about maybe a month to 6 weeks, and then we'll take a look and see what's happened with the seed. And of course, the seeds are in the story. We like to hear stories and see the artist and also the author who came up with the story and the ideas that he had. And so we're going to kind of do what Mother Nature does. Mother Nature takes care of all of that. Right now, I have these seeds. These are called peas. They're called snowbird peas. So they're in little pea packet, and I'm going to take them out and just put a few of them down here for you to see. They're going to be right down here. They look like little white pebbles, is what they look like. But they're actually these little peas that are they're the ones that live in a pod, you know? So I brought some flower pots with me. There's a tray for the water, and then we have the thing. The only thing I have to do is sure take off the price tag that lets the water in, right? So we take that off. And before we put any soil in here, because I don't want to dump it while we're doing the other part of it, and it's too hard to write when you have to crawl down here and write on the sides. So we're going to just do this with the sides. I have some markers, and I want to put some words that maybe someone could have told the seed, or that maybe things we like to hear when we're going into someplace strange that we've never been before, and someplace that we've never seen before, and going to a doctor for the very first time. We haven't seen this doctor before. That's kind of scary too. But there's some words and some things you can say to yourself that will help settle down that fear, that anxiety, or that you're having inside, and you don't quite know what to do with it. So we're going to write some of those words on our pot so that our seeds, they're not going to cry like our storybook, because our storybook's a story. But in real life, I don't think the seed knows what it's supposed to do. It just does it. No one tells it. It just does it. Just like as we get taller, there's nothing that we say to ourselves like, okay, today I'm going to grow an inch. There's nothing that we can tell our body to hurry up and do that. Like tomorrow morning I want to wake up and be an inch taller. That doesn't necessarily happen. But our body knows exactly when to do that. Just as the seed knew it needed to be planted. It needed the dirt, it needed the earth, it needed water, and it needed nutrients and things like that it gets from the soil, so that it can change and be what it's created to be. So some of the words that I thought about from in the story is safe. So we're going to write safe on here. We want to feel safe. Okay, so we're going to write safe there. And I think the other thing that we think about when we're with our family and things, we want to be loved. So we're going to write that on here. Safe and loved. And some of the other things that we think about, we don't really say very much, but we want to be cared for. We want to know that when we need something, we can tell our moms or our dads that we need something, and they're going to do their best to help us get that. So we want to be cared for. So that's another thing. And seeds want to be cared for too. Because when we care for the seeds that we plant, when we make that decision that we want to do that, is that we're sure that we take care of what the plant and the seed needs. And up across the top, a plant needs water. So we'll write those words here. It needs water. And it also needs, I'm going to use another color. It needs water. It needs food. It needs plant food to keep it healthy. Food. And it needs tending, which means we need to take care of the plants, to pull the weeds and things, that those things are not encumbering it and getting in its way. So tending needs tending. We're just writing these for fun to have around the flower pot. And as we feed and tend and care for the plant, guess what it does for us? This particular seed is going to create food. It's going to create beautiful green leaves, and inside those leaves are little pea pods. And there's a vegetable that helps us keep us healthy. So it's going to give back to us what we're giving it by caring for it while it's growing, while it's changing. So that's a thing we want to write here. Changing. I'm going to write that down here. Changing is safe when we make changes. And we do it in a safe, careful way. So we've got all kinds of words on our flower pot now. So I have some soil. My daughter gave me these things to do this with you this morning. She gave me the gardening soil. And she said to share with you that inside the soil are nutrients and things that the plant needs in order to start to grow and to change. Just like we need things. What are the kind of things that we need to grow and to change? Let me see. I think I can think of several. We need to be healthy. We need to be active, because being active in things keeps our body healthy and our mind healthy too. So we need to be active. That's what we call nutrients for the plant, is like that. So we're going to put some soil in these in the pot. And I think you can see this. Pretty sure that you can. The seeds are right down there. So we're going to take that, put that in there, almost to the top. We're going to add a little bit more later. This is a little messy. And then you're going to spread it out a little bit like that. And my daughter gave me directions this morning as to how we do this. Then we're going to put a little bit of water in here to moisten the soil. It's like that. Not a lot, just a little bit to start with. And then I have some little sticks that we're just going to kind of stir it around a little bit so that we have a safe and healthy place for the seeds. Just as the little seed that was planted wasn't aware at that point in time that the tears it was shedding was the tears to begin and start it to grow. So even though that was scary and all of that, so we're going to take the seeds. I think you can see them. I'm not real sure. I hope you can anyway. But these are what this is what peas look like before they're harvested and put in a can for us. We have a lovely garden in our backyard, and we have cucumbers and zucchinis and tomatoes and pumpkins. We have pumpkins already. I was really surprised. But right now I have 4 or 5 pumpkins that are in the garden. And we have different kinds of peppers and so, things like that. My daughter loves to plant. So she knows all about these kinds of seeds. So we're going to put these seeds in here. I'm going to put it one in at a time, and then kind of leave a little space and put another one in, so they're not actually sitting on top of one another. So that's the other thing. She said it needs space. Do we need space to grow? Think about that. As we talked about, when you're little, you only need a little space, right? A little tiny space that you'll fit in. But as you get bigger and bigger, you went from a crib to a bigger bed to a bigger bed as you got taller, because we needed that to keep our body healthy so that we could do the stretching, just as the seed did. So we're going to put more seeds in here. So we need that, and we have to take care of ourselves. And the other important thing that we take care of ourselves that no one else can do for us, absolutely no one else can do it for us. You guess what that is? You guess what that might be? Well, you have to think, and you're the only one that can do it. No one can think for you. You would sometimes like to think that that would be the possibility, but they can't. And you get to think your thoughts. And the little plant didn't really recognize what he would be thinking until he actually saw the lights when he came up out of the ground and recognized that the leaves and the beautiful branches and what he was doing. Can you remember any of the things that the tree gave back after the farmer had planted him and taken care of him and gave him the nutrients and watched the tree grow? Let's see. I can think of, it gave animals a home. Birds could grow up their nests in there, and then they had their babies. So it was a nursery for birds. And let's see, what else was there? There was a squirrel, and there was a squirrel, and there was butterflies. There was those things that the tree was there, and they had a place to be. So that was kind of a home. So he created a home for lots of different animals. And then the other part that he did is he created, in his growth and the size of his branches, he created a place for the kids to play, to strengthen their bodies by climbing the trees and having a good time on the tree. And so he created joy for the kids. He created a place for them to play and for them to grow. And he also provided food. He was a fruit tree. So I don't know what kind of fruit he grew. We didn't get to see that part. But it gave us fruit. So he gave back so much. As a little seed in a drawer, would he have been able to accomplish all of that? Nope, he had just been a little seed in a drawer. So by the farmer using nature, knowing what it needed to do, even though the seed didn't know what it needed to do, and did the process, then the tree got to do so many different things it would have never done in the drawer, as it said. It didn't miss the drawer anymore. It's grown into who it's supposed to be and what it's supposed to be. Just like the things that we do that too. So I'm going to go ahead. I put the seeds in. And you can't really see where I put them, but anyway, they're in there. So I'm going to add a little tiny bit more water, not a lot, because you don't want to drown them. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of water across the top. Like that. And this is a fun thing to do if you don't have a garden in your backyard. You can still do this by growing in pots. You can grow all kinds of things in pots besides flowers. So we're going to add more soil on top. And then I'll water these every day, and they'll sit in the windowsill in my kitchen where they get nice light, and they'll begin to grow. And when I see them pop up, when they pop up with their little green leaves and things, when they pop up, I'll bring them back so that we can see that and see what they look like. And I know these are, I believe these are vines, so they'll grow over the edges of the pot. See, now I'm going to add a little bit more soil, to the rest of it, just to get it so that it has some soil, some water. Okay, there we go. So we'll let that soak in. And I have this tray, and the water that the plant doesn't need right now, it's going to flow through, and I think you can see it. See the water right there? It's going to sit there, and then it'll reabsorb into the soil when the soil needs it for the plant. Now, the one other thing that I thought one of the things that we do at our house is we want to be sure we remember what we planted in there. Otherwise, we'll be surprised, right? So this is it's called a snowbird pea. So we're going to write on here, snowbird, bird, pea, peas, like that. But I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to turn the stick over, and on the other side, I'm going to put love and care, because I'm going to be sure that I give it love and care, and that's going to go inside the pot so that I know what's in there. So there's that one. So I'm going to put that over here. Now we can do the same thing with this one. These particular, these are also peas. These are called mammoth melting sugar. So I think they're sugar peas. They're a little sweeter than the peas in this one. So we can go ahead and plant another pot if we want to. We don't have to, but we can do that. So we have another pot. And the other thing that we think about is, and I don't know if you've heard your folks talk about this or not, but if you talk to your plants, there's an energy that comes from you that goes out into the air and the everywhere that you are. They call it our atmosphere that we're in, the atmosphere that we're in. And your energy is what comes out in that. That's when you play and you go outside and you have a really good time and you talk to your friends and you tell someone you love them. There's not just the words, but it's the energy behind the words. So I know it sounds very funny, but if you ever see people talking to their plants, I have on my desk, I have a bamboo plant, and I got it when it was a little tiny thing. It's about like this now. It's very tall. And I just tell how pretty it is and how much I enjoy looking at it. And it's nice and green, and it adds a beauty to my office and my desk. And I talk to it just like I would talk to my children or my grandkids or my family to let them know how much I care for them. So I do the same thing with my plants. When I water them, I make sure the soil is got enough soil and it's soft and it's not hard and things like that. Because the more we do that, not only for ourselves, but for our family, but for the things around us, like our pets and trees and flowers and stuff, if you have that in your yard. And if you help your folks in that way of gardening, of pulling weeds and helping do that and keeping the soil loose around the plants so that the water can get through, that's another way of showing the care and the love that you have inside of you for those particular things outside of us. So the more love you give, the more you receive. As the farmer knew, when he planted that seed, he knew it was going to grow into a beautiful tree. He knew that. Seed didn't, but he did. So he took all those steps and did that, and did a beautiful thing and created a wonderful, beautiful tree that's going to last for years and years and years and years, probably longer than the children as they grow up and then they get married and they have children that their grandkids can play, his grandkids can play in that tree. So it gave so much love and care and everything else. So when you see nature and you see the trees and you see all of that thing, take a second or a minute, if you can manage a minute, and tell it how much you appreciate it. Thank you for the shade, especially right now when it's so warm outside and you can go sit under a tree that's creating shade, or when the wind blows and it's a cool breeze that cools us off. That's the thing, is as we give, we receive. So all the love and tender care you give to plants and trees and everything, it gives back. So this week, if you get an opportunity, put a plant in your front yard, or maybe plant something in a pot that you can watch and nurture and help grow into something amazing. So it's a wonderful feeling. It's making a difference in the world, because beauty is always one thing we can add. So make a difference. See if you can do something like that this week by planting a plant, or maybe giving flowers to mom or something like that, in that line that we connect with nature and ourselves. All right? So have a very lovely week. And in about 6 to 8 weeks, I'll bring my pot back and I'll show you what has unfolded from the seed that we planted. All right? Take care. Have a great week. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.